Welcome to Shorty's SuperCoach. Shorty is back from Brisbane. Good bit of fun. Good little getaway. Went for 5 nights. Only went out the 2, which is probably unders for Shorty, but it's good fun. A few dinners, a few little road trips. Got up to Burleigh Heads, was nice. And yeah, just did a few bits and pieces. It was actually good fun. But now just back in old Geelong, just chilling out now. Got the cricket on, got the tennis on, which is nice. But yeah, it's a bit of a change up from with your mates for 5 days and you're doing stuff left, right and centre, eating out, drinks all the time. Just back to reality now. Back to reality, but that's all right. It was, it's how it rolls, and it's good to be at least getting away to some extent. I've come back to an absolute war zone. COVID's everywhere in Geelong, but I hate talking about COVID, so Shorty will bypass that one. And I'm sure you guys won't mind that because we hear far too much about it. It's hard to escape. So let's talk some footy. Going to take a look at Port Adelaide today. And I've got a few bits and pieces. I've got your classic Butters, Rosey, Dursman discussion. They seem to feature every time anyone talks about Port Adelaide. But a couple of old guys I've got in the gun. Well, not old. A couple of, one's a bit old. One had definitely the best year of his career. And he's a guy that I'm not going to touch, as the title suggests. I copped it for my Sean Darcy, not going to touch him, but hopefully you understood what angle I was coming at it from, and hopefully you get what angle I'm coming at this one from. But let's get stuck into it. The lock, well, it's got to be Zach Butters. You know, he's at 443k. We'll get him as a forward. And he was flying at the start of last year. A lot of people had him as a breakout contender, and he was breaking out. He was on fire. But went down in round 4, and he was on about 100 odd in halfway through the game. Ended up getting scaled down to 96, and that was the last we saw of him for some time. Just wasn't the same when he came back. Had scores of 39, 51, 47 in amongst, probably he looked like a guy that had a long layoff. They wanted him back in the team because he's creative, but he wasn't back in the exact role, form and fitness that probably we saw him at the start of the year. But I wouldn't be surprised if we see more of the start of the year Butters as opposed to the last. So get him at a nice price, and I think it's going to be hard to look past him. I wasn't one that pumped him up last year, and then watching him, I thought, what were you doing? He dominates when he's just that link-up guy. He's clever, he's smart, I don't know. I still don't really know what his number one attribute is, but he just is a smart footballer, gets in the right spots, links up. He's a clever, smart kick, and always dangerous around goals. And you just think the more years go on, the more opportunity he's going to get to have a bigger say for Port Adelaide. So also want to put in Sam Hayes as a ruck option. Of course, no Laddams. We've seen him leave the club, and I think there's a fair bit of hype about this guy from Port Adelaide fans. They've been probably thinking he's going to come through for a while. 22 years of age. He's got to be a good chance to play some game time, I reckon. So, but talking of breakout options, and that does roll me into a couple of guys that are always mentioned when Zach Butters is mentioned. That's Conor, Rosey and Xavier Dursman. But these two guys haven't quite got to the levels that Butters has, at least not consistently. I think Dursman, probably is a slightly different type. He's quite consistent, where Rosey, we probably are expecting bigger and better things from him and just hasn't delivered it. To the date right now, his first year is still his highest average. So he averaged 73 last year, Dursman 72. And look, I'm not telling you anything you don't know, but they are obviously guys that, as Port Adelaide continue to develop, not even develop, as they look to usher the next wave of guns through, these guys will get more of a chance to shine through. They've had their injury interruptions at times, but also just haven't found maybe their ideal spot in the side, or haven't quite got the opportunity that maybe will give them their best footy. So I think they're a good chance to explode at some stage, and I really think Rosey that we'll see big developments this year. Also want to put Miles Bergman in there. Just averaged to 61, but I feel like he could be a nice halfback flanker, or just a good player that extends his points a fair bit this year. We're not going to select him, but he might be someone that you just have in the back of your mind for draft. Maybe late in the draft. Maybe he's just a guy that can get his average into the 80s and could just be handy on your draft bench or a bit of insurance. In terms of a risk, and this is where, you know, people might start to differ in opinion for the rest of this video, but I've got Travis Boak. I just think he's 33 now. He's close to 36 and 33 in a couple of months. And I just think we've seen a resurgence from him. And he's one of these midfielders that just seems to get better as they get older. But I just think it's a risk in that regard. You know, you can't continue to do that. Not everyone's David Mundy. And even David Mundy's numbers, he still has great games, but even he, you know, has declined a little bit over the journey, as you would understand. And I think Boak would do similar. I just don't think of all the premium options we could select. I just think there's better guys that are in their prime window of dominant scoring. You know, there's so many. So not sure if many people are thinking of picking Boak, but I couldn't come up with too much else to really get my teeth stuck into it for a risky option at Port Adelaide. And no chance for my side is Ollie Wines. Now, before you unsubscribe and go nuts at me, just hear me out. This section of my video, I try to find someone that you might think about, but I don't endorse. So it's not to say he's a bad selection or he's not going to go well. I try to find someone that maybe you're thinking about, and maybe I just want to say, I wouldn't really go with that. I think there's better options. The reason I say it about Wines, I think he had a year to remember, clearly. Brownlow, one out of the box. And I just can't be banking on him continuing that. He may well. But in my opinion, like I said with Boak, there's far safer options. Ollie Wines from 2014 to 2018 averaged in 97 to 100. He looked like he was going to be a bit of a Ben Cunnington, just really good contributor and a great player, but never really exploded beyond your 110. In 2020, averaged 104, and last year went massive. So he may continue to do that. 113 he averaged last year, but for me, I just think he had a year out of the box. I don't envision him continuing to average 110 plus. He may well prove me wrong, but for me, I think there's better premium options out there. So I'd love to hear your thoughts on that. I'd be really interested to see if you disagree with some of those selections, or if you've got someone that I didn't mention that you think I should have, feel free to let me know. But we're getting through these now. We're getting through them. 4 or 5 left. Can't remember. St Kilda, Sydney, Dogs, West Coast. Yeah, we'd be just about through them. So hopefully you've enjoyed them. I'll be back soon, like I mentioned. We'll probably try and get most of these done and dusted, probably by the end of the weekend. So that'll be exciting. I'll talk to you guys soon. Cheers.